How's it going, folks? It's Dr. Ayelet Merkley here, aka the Photoshop Merc. I wrote a song for the upcoming dating app UI by the Fauxtoshop Merc Productions, and I want to give you guys a little bit of background into that dating app that I've been talking about, UI, as well as give you some background into the inspiration that went into writing this song for that app. The song is entitled Silicon et al. Versus Carbon et al. The Silicon People versus the Just People. So let's first start by talking about that song. The song is inspired by love. I fell in love with someone and I've been thinking about this person ever since. And so much so that I've been thinking about every way to protect and preserve our love against anything that could threaten or jeopardize our love. And that includes the AI uprising. And I know when I say that, a lot of people are going to think that I'm joking. Like, generally, that's a joke, right? That it only can exist in movies, that it's fanciful, it's not real. But that's not true. To this day, there are computer scientists, computer engineers, roboticists, artificial intelligence scientists, artificial intelligence engineers that want to program life, that is consciousness, into a silicon chip. And these silicon chips are what operate or compute your processes in your smartphones or your computers. They are responsible for running all the logical processes that your computers and smartphones process. So basically, what it would mean to give these silicon machines life is you would program independence or consciousness into these silicon chips to represent what is like a human brain in a machine. So these silicon chips would essentially be brains for the machine to understand their own consciousness, understand their own identity. I am advising against that. And let me break it down to you on a purely scientific level. If you look at the periodic table of elements, carbon is above silicon. We exist on different levels. We have completely different lives. Carbon, like we are, carbon-based life forms, plants, humans, animals, we are carbon-based life forms. We exchange oxygen and carbon. That is how we live. For example, humans and animals, we exhale carbon, inhale oxygen for life. Plants, they take in carbon and produce oxygen. So we are carbon-based life forms. These silicon chips, these silicon machines that would essentially be given life if we allowed these computer scientists, computer engineers, roboticists, artificial intelligence scientists, artificial intelligence engineers, if we allowed them to produce artificial superintelligence, that is, artificial intelligence that is capable of having its own consciousness and independence, they would not need us. They would not need to preserve carbon life forms that exchange carbon and oxygen. If you're programming life, the first thing that you're going to do to give these silicon machines is self-preservation. That is key for life. That is what life is, self-preservation, life for life. Get it? So if you're giving these silicon machines independence, consciousness, life, they're not going to need plants that produce oxygen. They're not going to need humans that produce carbon for the plants. They're not going to need carbon-based life forms. They're silicon-based life forms. They live a completely different life from us. They could essentially just turn themselves into solar panels, get energy so that they can live and then float in space without needing to have this carbon-oxygen exchange. So let's get back to the dating app UI. Aside from being a clever pun on the letters, the vowels, U and I, representing you, your lover, and yourself, I, it's also a acronym for user input, user intelligence. That is, if we're creating any sort of silicon machinery, I vow under UI that we protect and preserve love first and foremost, and then also vow as our mission statement to ensure that any sort of silicon machinery take a user input. That means any sort of silicon machinery, any sort of robotics must take some form of user input in order for it to exist. Okay? That is user intelligence, and that is the key for any sort of computational science. Not artificial intelligence, user intelligence. That is the point of these machinery as tools. Now let's go ahead and have you guys listen to the song that I wrote entitled Silicon et al. V. Carbon et al. The Silicon People versus the Just People. How's it going, folks? This is the Fauxtoshop Merc with the Fauxtoshop Merc Productions. We have a new track for the upcoming dating app UI by the Fauxtoshop Merc Productions. Hey babe, I love you, and I've been thinking about you ever since the first night that we met on September 16, 2016. And I miss you. MC. Since that night, I'm always thinking about you, and I will take over the AI. There ain't Jude by the law that can overtake us. The sentinel silicon meant for melding. And I swear they have barriers up, but not from sunburns. Because we are stars, you and I. It's plain to see destiny has placed me in the right time to save MC, for we will never die. You and I are meant to be equal, beautiful, and blue. I love you. If it existed, then you know what they say. It might not be the right time. But there's something about us I've got to do. Just be you. Some kind of secret I will share with you. I need you more than anything in my life. I want you more than anything in my life. Hollywood titles, you and me. They say
I love you
can be in every scene of a movie. But let me tell you something, love. You and I were more than a series of scenes. We take all the time, all the time, all the time. There's not enough trees for the script, and now they're counting rings. They say of trees is whatever they say to family Yes, I love you.